Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Gleason, Genesee County Clerk, with an update on the Genesee County election process. Well, 4 o'clock today, April 21st, 2020, the books have been closed for the August primary. Got some bad news for you, folks. The campaign season is now underway. All across Genesee County, county offices, state offices, township offices have all had their books closed now. The candidates have filed. Unfortunately, there has been probably a pretty serious miscommunication between the state of Michigan and the local media. Both MLive and ABC 12 reported last night in the news cycle that the local application period for filing for local offices was extended until May 8th at 5 o'clock. That was not true. That was not true. The reporting was not accurate. Today at 4 o'clock, the polls were closed for those wanting to run for local offices. I want to congratulate all those that had the courage, that had the desire to make Genesee County a better place to live. We live in a democracy, and now it is going to be put into use. I hope there's no confusion. I know there's been a lot of consternation. It was more difficult than past years. I've been in office as your county clerk now for 7.5 years, and we always were very accessible. We allowed candidates that had any questions regarding the status of their candidacy, that had any questions regarding the status of their filing, they always had an easy access to Genesee County Clerk's offices. We were proud of that accessibility. With the coronavirus, we were shuttled in that opportunity this year. We could not ask you to come to the counter for help. So most of the work was performed over the internet, by email or texting or on the phone lines. And we want to thank you for your patience and your understanding, because we want you to be safe. Everything changed during this filing process. Everything changed. When Governor Whitmer instituted the lockdown on March 24th and said that we must distance ourselves. And Genesee County, I think, took a very responsible leadership role and said, people, please stay away from the public facilities, the public buildings. Do your work at a distance. We put forward a mail-only process. We found out that that wasn't the absolute best exercise that we could undertake. So I took the position that we would put a drop box on Beach Street so that those that couldn't handle the process by mail, especially the last few days when you knew absolutely there was no way, even with the Blessed Mother intervening with a miracle, there was no way that your mail could get from your house to our county office. So we literally put a box drop out on Beach Street, and many people utilized that, and I'm glad you found that useful exercise. So I want to thank them again. I've ran for office. I can't even believe it, the way time flies. I've been in office now 25 years. And I, too, have filed for re-election here in Genesee County as well. So I want to thank those. It takes a lot of courage to put your name on the ballot today. Unfortunately, our elections have become much more personal, a lot less policy-driven, and more personal attacks rather than elevating our communities with good, positive, very effectual policy. And another issue I want to bring to your attention now with this community update is that on May 5th, this is an important one, May 5th, only 4 communities in Genesee County are having school millage elections. The 4 are Durand. Durand School District bleeds into southern Genesee County. That district overlaps into our county. Durand is having a question before the voters. Grand Blanc Township is having a question before their voters. Mount Morris and Clio. So those 4 school districts have millage questions before the local voters. This is it's really a sea change of policy and procedure. Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State, implemented what I consider a very serviceable and safe process. 100% of the May 5th school millage elections across the state will be absentee ballot only. I say only with some hesitancy because Michigan, as you all know, in 2018 we passed Proposal 3 that allowed same-day registration, same-day voting. But Jocelyn Benson, our great Secretary of State, she said to keep the poll workers safe and to keep the voters safe so people aren't in line filling out their affidavit and waiting in line to use one of the voting booths, all mail in, except those that want to register on May 5th the past constitutional change that we had through use of Proposal 3 were no reason absentee voting and same-day registration. So remember those votes, those opportunities. And I want to, I always do this when it's election time. It just means so much to me. My dad was first-generation American. But the cost that was just the cost of giving us the gift to vote, particularly our brothers and sisters of color. Folks just wanted to register to vote, and their houses were burned. The young men and women, they demonstrated across America. They had the freedom riders on the buses. The buses were overturned and bombed and burned, and people were hurt and killed. The Great March in Selma, which I personally believe ought to be a national park, a national historical designation. The Great March that Martin Luther King led for the right to not necessarily vote, but only register to vote. That famous march across the Burris Bridge in Selma, Alabama. So just consider the cost. I always raise up the minorities, the women. We just celebrated the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. 1919, they finally gave the women the right to vote. 1965, 1966, we had the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act here in America. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed that into law with a great deal of courage by the congressmen and senators at that particular time. And I think more immediacy to me, April 8th, which was really only 2 weeks away, our nephew Scott Sather was killed in Iraq, one of the first casualties of the war. So we must always remember the gift that the veterans, not only that fought for us in America to have that right to vote, but the young men and women across the globe today, in Afghanistan, those stationed in Korea, those stationed in Germany, the trouble that we're having in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran, fighting to give people a voice in their political process in those distant lands. So that's enough reason to vote, and I always say it's not a right to vote. I always say it's a gift. So once again this year, I say lift the gift. Lift the gift. Give tribute to those that gave you the right to vote. So God bless you. This is John Gleason from Genesee County, giving you the latest news out of the Genesee County Clerk's Office. Be well, be blessed.